Scripture reading will be Psalm chapter 29. Ascribe to the Lord, you heavenly beings. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord thunders over the mighty waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is majestic. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. The Lord breaks in pieces the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon leap like a calf, Sirion like a young wild ox. The voice of the Lord strikes with flashes of lightning. The voice of the Lord shakes the desert. The voice of the Lord twists the oaks and strips the forests bare. And in his temple all cry, "Glory!" The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord is enthroned as king forever. The Lord gives strength to his people. The Lord blesses his people with peace.
Well, good morning, everyone. Glad, just kind of like what Brendan said, glad to see everybody made the time change with our clocks so that we woke up at a good time. And I did see a couple of people coming in. I won't say Bailey's name out loud, but she looked a little sleepy. Where is she? She's over there somewhere. Yeah, she's hiding right over there. Is that right? Yeah, I see her behind my wife. Yeah, some of us are a little sleepy, and I mentioned to somebody over here, luckily I'm preaching, so I don't think I'll fall asleep. But you know what? We have come to worship God, and that's exciting. That's exciting. Let me read to you another psalm, Psalm 96. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the earth. Sing to the Lord and praise his name. Proclaim his salvation day after day. Declare the glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. For great is the Lord and most worthy of praise. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols. But the Lord made the heavens. Splendor and majesty are before him. Strength and glory are in his sanctuary. Let's pray. Father, we're so thankful to be able to come into your presence to worship you. Father, we are grateful for the things that you have made. You have made this creation. You have made this world. You have made us. And Father, the love that you have for us and given to us and bestow to us on our behalf is immeasurable and unpaybackable. Father, there's no way we can repay you for what you have given. May you accept our worship. In your Son, Jesus' name, amen. So, anybody ever like to go to museums? Like to go to museums? Like to see things yeah, Dave. Do you like to go to art galleries? Some of us do. Some of us didn't get to go to a certain art gallery in Chicago one time, and we kind of wished we did. But you know, there is a famous painting that we have in the United States. It is a Leonardo da Vinci, and it's the only one in the Americas. Do y'all know the one I'm talking about? It is let me see if I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's the Ginevra de Benci. B-N-C-I, Benci. And it's hanging in Gallery 6 in the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. It's pretty impressive. It's probably our most prized painting, if you want to put it that way, that we have in this country. And if you like people watching, evidently it's great to go to the National Art Gallery and just watch the people that go by. Very interesting. And the ones that go into this gallery, you'll have everybody from school children to art aficionados. Everybody passes through, and everybody that passes through that gallery can say, I saw a Da Vinci. I saw a Benci. Now, if you're just a guy that would just kind of stroll in and kind of look and kind of just gaze on the wall and go, okay, yeah, and then kind of walk through, yeah, all right, okay, there's another one. And then you walk out, you may have missed something. There's others that will go, seriously, they'll go and stand in front of the painting and they'll admire the nuances of the shading of the colors and of the way he shaded in the painting, and you'll see the things even behind this girl. And then those that are even more excited about art may actually read the stuff that's written there, and when they read it, they'll actually find out that this person that has their picture, this Benshi, was an aristocrat of the aristocratic class living in the 1500s. And that's gives you a little more to hold on to on that painting. But if you're really excited about art and you give out, you get the audio tour, you'll actually hear that this aristocratic lady was 16 years old when Da Vinci did this painting. 16 years old, and it was for her wedding. Which could say a lot about the painting, since the woman's not smiling at all. And you may find out that Leonardo was 22 years old when he painted that, and it was his very first portrait. But we're pretending we're standing there looking into that gallery, and we're watching the people come in, and we can see the different connections to this piece of art. And we can watch as some people just kind of go in and kind of, go out, and do we understand? Do they understand what they're passing in front of? Every visitor who passes through Gallery 6 can say they've seen Benshi, but some have only seen with their eyes, while others have seen with their soul. Some have only given it a simple glance, while others have hallowed this painting. And what I want to say is that, isn't life like that sometimes? Isn't life like that sometimes? Some of us, we go through life and we see things because we choose to. And we go up and we look at it and we understand the majesty that is there, the greatness that is there, the value that is there. And we pay attention. And the thing about that is, we breathe the same air that the other people breathe. And the other people, they come in, or maybe that's us, we come in and we're breathing the same air, but we don't see the same thing. We have the same things happen to us in life. We go to the same places. We experience some of the same stuff, but it's not the same. Others seem to walk through life as if they're half asleep, half aware, half alive. They see less, they experience less, they enjoy less, they feel less. Leonardo once observed that the average person, quote, looks without seeing, listens without hearing, touches without feeling, eats without tasting, inhales without awareness of odor or fragrance, and talks without thinking. And in my line, I wrote there, sounds like a whole bunch of stuff that Scripture warns us about. So we stand close by this gallery, observing everybody from these kids to these aficionados, and they walk by this Da Vinci. And you might, if you were standing there, you might think, man, Leonardo would roll over in his grave if he knew how right he was when he said that. And then you might even feel really bad that so many people seem to be in such a hurry and just skipped right by it and don't see that beauty that's standing right before their eyes. And then you may step back and wonder, I wonder if God feels that way about us. I wonder if that's how God feels. The very first revelation of God in Genesis is basically that of an artist. The very first recorded reaction to creation is his reaction to creation, right? You remember what the reaction was? He said it was good. On a daily basis, he would stand back and look at his work and go, wow, that's good. He saw the light that he made, and he said, that's good. He saw that he separated the waters. He's like, wow, that's good. He saw the trees and the shrubs, and he stood back and went, that's good. And then he saw the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. He saw the sun and the moon and the stars, and yes, I got those out of order if you're counting. He saw the animals, and he saw man that he created. And each one, after each day, he's standing back going, wow, that's really good. But you know what he does when he stands back from all of it after the end of his creating? He adds a modifier to that, doesn't he? What does he say? He doesn't just say it's good. What does he say, Gary? He says, that's really good. Let me tell you the way I would say that. That's awesome. Can you imagine? And righteously so. Cannot God create the world and then stand back from it and look at it and go, man, that is good? And if you think that the creator of the world thinks it's good, what should we think? Do you ever wonder, maybe that's why that when we go on top of a mountain and we look out and we go, oh, that we're actually kind of being like God? In the fact that we look out and we go, wow. Or maybe you haven't been on the top of that summit. Maybe you've been at the ocean and you've seen the sunrise or the sunset and the fingerprints of God in the splendid color. And you go, wow. And maybe you'll say something like this, that is very good. God steps back and he surveys the scope of his creation. And God saw all that he had made, and it was very, very good. And deep, strong emotions are there. Amazing, isn't it? His initial reaction. Deep, strong, and very righteous so. Our reaction when we see his creation is in essence not only us being like him in the fact that we are awed at what he's created, but it's also, in a way, our way of expressing our love or appreciation to him. The same way, in a way, minor and smaller way, that somebody can appreciate a masterpiece in an art gallery. And by doing so, you are bestowing appreciation and gratefulness and thankfulness upon the person who painted that. Now, it might not make as much sense because you may not be an art aficionado, but how many of y'all have a refrigerator with somebody's picture or somebody's drawing on it? Who was it? Was it Stephen Wright? Was it Stephen Wright who said that he, how did it go, Mike? he went to the children's gallery and they had all the paintings up on refrigerators. And so even us, as we walk into our own kitchens and we see the handiwork and we go, wow, that is great. It is actually showing love to the person who created that. Is it possible that we're giving God just a passing glance? Is that possible? Is it possible we're giving him this passing glance instead of truly hallowing his name? Is it possible that we have settled for a little small God who fits in that one side of our brain that's really logical? And we skip understanding the God of wonder in that other part of our brain that is the God who is able to do immeasurably more than we ask or imagine from Ephesians 3. Is that possible? Is it possible that we've stuffed God and made him the God of logic and not the God of wonder? Now I want you to listen carefully because I want to say this because I don't want you to miss what I'm saying. When you get past all the traditions, past all the ministries, past all the details, all the methods, all the rules and regulations, what is left is raw wonder about who God is. Now here's where I want to make sure you listen to me. I'm not saying we skip all that stuff. That's not what I mean by getting past. What I mean is wonder is what comes after logic has run its course. Do you understand what I'm saying? We study God and we think about God and we create this understanding of God on knowledge that we pull out, and that is fantastic. But there's also that time when we take that knowledge and we stand on top of the mountain and we go, wow. And we're at a place where our knowledge has stopped, but the wonder continues. And depending on your level of knowledge, it may stop sooner than others, right? Like the God's eye that Mike showed up here. Don't you remember as a kid walking out and seeing the stars. Do you remember the first time you saw the Milky Way? If we saw it as a little kid, we're like, what's that? Because we're far enough out from the city. We're in the country where all the lights aren't bugging us. Wonder instead. Wonder is the reason for the tradition. It's the experience of the ministry. Wonder is the purpose for the details. Wonder makes sense of the methods. Wonder embraces and continues through all the rules and regulations. So my question is, have we got stuck on one side of our brain and forgotten to use the other side where we are just in awe of what God has done and who He is? God cannot be reduced to 26 letters of the alphabet. So where logic stops, wonder takes up. Wonder defines and defies logic. And that's a special place to understand and to know who God is. So I'm excited for all those people from this church that are going to get to go on the family trip to the Grand Canyon. Who all's going? Can you raise your hand just so I can see? Oh, that's awesome. You guys are going to get to experience something, if you've never been there, that it truly is amazing. You may be able to get that little t-shirt that says, I hiked the Grand Canyon. Hopefully you'll get the one that says, I went down and came back up. I remember the time when we took the kids to the Grand Canyon, and I was kind of quizzing my daughters over the weekend to see what they remembered. And Haley remembered a lot more than Macy. Macy remembered, Dad, it was really cold, because we went in the winter. Yeah, and there was actually snow around the Grand Canyon when we went there with the kids. It is an amazing place. Have you ever been there? And I know the word awesome is overused, but that's the only word that begins to capture how I feel about what I saw when Kim and I stood there. It's kind of like I felt when on one of the trips back and forth to Ukraine. Our plane happened to kind of cut real close to Greenland. And Greenland's a big glacier. And I remember straining my neck looking out, trying to see, because it was clear. And I was like, wow, that is, and I was, getting my camera and taking pictures like, man, that is huge. And it's to be able to see from a bird's eye point of view what God has created and things that I've studied about is amazing. One of the mistakes that I think we've made in modern Christianity is we've relied solely too much on just our deductive reasoning about who God is. We need to use that. But when we rely on that mostly or totally, we put ourselves in a tough position. So apologists try to prove that God is factual. Great. We need that. He is factual. But some facts don't awe us. And we need to be in awe of who God is. It's more than just arguing the evidence of God. God is more than just a fact. God's wonderful. God is wonderful. I want to read to you from the book of Job, chapter 37. And I'm going to read to you, I think it's out of the New Living Translation. So just listen to this. Job, would you stop for a minute and listen? Think about the wonderful things God does. Job, do you know how God controls the clouds? Do you know how God makes lightning flash? Do you know how the clouds hang in the sky? And clouds are just one example of the wonderful things God made. And God knows everything about them. But Job, you don't know these things. All you know is that you sweat, your clothes stick to you, and everything is still quiet when the heat wave comes from the south. Job, can you help God spread out the sky? Can you help God make it shine like polished brass? A person cannot look at the sun. It's very bright and shiny in the sky after the wind blows the clouds away. And God's just like that. God's golden glory shines from the holy mountain. There is a bright light around God. God, all-powerful, is great. And we can't understand God. God is very powerful, but He is also good and fair to us. God doesn't want to hurt us. That's why people respect God. I just like the way that's worded. One of the most unforgettable moments, if you're at the Grand Canyon, is if you go to the Bright Angel Point and see the sunrise. The awed silence that you would have, that you may have if you're there, speaks wonders of God's fingerprints over the canyon. And frankly, the more I see of God's beauty and God's nature, the more I experience of His creation, the more I'm convinced that silence is an appropriate reaction when I just stand there. I say that because in Revelation chapter 8, there's an interesting silence when we get before the throne room of God. There's actually, if you read that chapter, there's a 30-minute silence when we first get there, and there's another 30-minute silence right before we leave the throne room of God. And that silence has kind of bugged scholars, like, what is that about? Well, here's a suggestion. How about this? First time you ever go into the presence of God, you may not have a whole lot to say. And you may just stand there in awe. Our first face-to-face encounter with God may leave us speechless, and we may need to catch our collective breaths. Psalm 46, God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake from its surging. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. Have you ever been speechless at what God has done? Seriously, have you ever been speechless at what God has done? I can tell you of a recent time when I was in my office speechless at what I believe God was doing. And there was a couple that was coming in for counseling. And a big change happened from a couple of weeks ago. And I remember sitting in my chair just going, wow. And part of it included a young man giving his life back to God. And I remember he started telling me some stuff about how he felt about his wife and that how he was reminded and that how he really understood love and then somewhere in there he quit telling me. And he turned and was telling her. And I was just like, wow, isn't God good? Have you ever been speechless at what God has done? Have you ever been filled with wonder? And I kind of want to remind you that sometimes we get complacent because we look around at all the natural wonder that's in the world. And for some reason, we like to make sure we point out that, oh, that's not a miracle. That's God's natural working. Naturally. Yes, God did that. I just want to make sure you still understand, God still did that. Does that make sense? So things that we look at all the time, like the splendor of a sunrise. You get those in Broken Arrow too, by the way. You don't have to just go to the ocean to see them. You get them in Broken Arrow, and they pass us every day. They happen every day. Some of us pride ourselves on missing them. Okay, but I do want to tell you, God made those. Right? Are you saying they're a miracle? I'm saying God made them. Guess what? God made that. God did that. The sunrise is so consistent that we take it for granted. Few things are as God-made spectacular as a sunrise, that's for sure. By the way, and let me throw out some facts and try to get you a little bit awed, although it may not work. Our planet spins on its axis at a speed of about 1,000 miles per hour. Okay? While it's doing this daily rotation at 1,000 miles per hour every 24 hours, we're also hurtling through space, making our yearly trek around the sun at an amazing 67,000 miles per hour. Okay? So I'm not sure what all your plans are for today, but by the end of today, you will have traveled 1.6 million miles. Good job. That's impressive. And that didn't even let you know that, by the way, the Milky Way galaxy is spinning as well. So, Psalm 29 we read at the beginning. That's like an ode to a thunderstorm. Okay? Worship is, and I'm quoting a Scottish essayist, Thomas Carlyle, worship is transcendent wonder. Wonder for which there is no limit or measure, that's worship. Church, there is a deep sense and inner something about worship that should be filled with wonder. It is standing in awe of the Creator and His creation. It's translating beauty, the beauty of creation, into praise for the Creator. It's thanking God for the millions of sunrises. And have you ever noticed how, when you read through the psalm, David refers to God's created world, how he refers to it in praise and majesty? The world's a, quote, this is from Psalm 40, the world's a huge stockpile of God wonders. And in Psalm 29, the version I'm about to read to you, I like the way it starts out because it starts out like this. Bravo, God, bravo. All God's angels shout, encore. In awe before the glory, in awe before God's visible power. I'm still reading the scriptures. Stand at attention. Dress your best to honor Him. God thunders across the waters, brilliant His voice and His face, streaming with brightness. God across the floodwaters. God's thunder tympanic. God's thunder symphonic. God's thunder smashes cedars, topples the northern cedars. The mountain ranges skip like spring colts. The high ridges jump like wild kid goats. God's thunder spits fire. What's that? God's thunder spits fire. That sounds like lightning, doesn't it? I see I have time for maybe one illustration left. So I'm going to throw this one at you, and you may know this already if you've watched much of the History Channel. Nikola Tesla did a lot of work with lightning or electricity. And in his unique nature that he had, not counting his little dispute with Thomas Edison, I guess, but in Nikolai's unique nature, during a thunderstorm, he would pull his couch or a chair close to the window so that he could look out. And every time the thunder crashed and the lightning came down, he would rise to his feet and give God a standing ovation. In essence, it was one genius with a little g saying to another genius with a big G, wow. There are approximately 2,000 thunderstorms going on all over this planet at any given moment. There are approximately 100 lightning strikes every second. That translates to 8.6 million standing ovations for God every day. When's the last time you gave God a standing ovation? When was the last time you cried or clapped for the Creator? When was the last time you gave Him thanks? When was the last time you thanked Him for a drop of rain? You thanked Him for the smile of a child, or a child's laugh, or a touch of a spouse? When's the last time you were awed by the night sky, or the fall of leaves, or a snow-capped mountain, or the waves? So much so that you worshiped the Creator in wide-eyed wonder like a child. Psalm 66, verse 3, and this is where we end. Say to God, how awesome are your works. And in verse 5, come and see the works of God, who is awesome in His deeds. He is awesome in His deeds toward the sons of men. In church, we get to walk around outside and we get to experience this awesomeness, but that's not the only awesomeness that we get to experience. We get to experience the awesomeness of having that which casts us out of His presence be removed from us. We have the graciousness of having that which takes us out of His presence being removed by His Son, thus drawing us back into His presence so that we can give Him that greeting of 30 minutes of But I also know that some of us have not let Him do that. Some of us haven't let Him do that. Some of us kind of confuse ourselves because we think we've done that in a lot of areas, but we're just not going to do it in this one area. And it's scary. Because we hold on. We hold on. We hold on. May God forgive us when we hold on. May we live long enough to let go. If you need to be a child of His or reconciled to Him, the invitation is short, and it's that God's awesome. He can handle whatever you bring to Him. Won't you come while we stand and while we sing together?